After age 73, one retirement mistake can look completely harmless. You take the withdrawal. You see the money land in your bank account. You think, good, the required minimum distribution is handled. But here is the part many retirees miss. For some people, taking the first RMD by the April deadline does not mean the year is finished. It can actually create a second deadline in the same calendar year. And if that second withdrawal is forgotten, short, or taken from the wrong type of account, the IRS may treat it as a missed required distribution. That is when a quiet paperwork mistake can turn into a penalty. This does not mean you should panic. It does not mean every retiree has made this mistake. And it does not mean you should move money without advice. It means that after age 73, you need to understand the calendar, because the calendar is where the trap begins. By the end of this video, you will know the RMD mistake that catches many people by surprise, why it happens, how multiple accounts can make it worse, and what to check before December 31st so your family is not trying to fix it later. Required minimum distributions, usually called RMDs, are not optional withdrawals. They are the minimum amounts many retirees must take from certain tax-deferred retirement accounts once they reach the required age. For many people today, that age is 73. These rules commonly affect traditional IRAs, SEP IRAs, simple IRAs, 401ks, 403bs, and similar retirement plans. But the mistake is not simply forgetting that RMDs exist. The deeper mistake is assuming that one withdrawal, one deadline, or one account statement means everything has been handled. That assumption feels reasonable because retirement accounts are confusing. You may have an IRA at one company, an old 401k from an employer, another IRA from a rollover, and maybe a spouse with separate accounts. Each company may send letters at different times. Some may calculate an estimated RMD for you. Others may not make it obvious. And even when a custodian provides a number, the responsibility can still fall on the account owner to make sure the correct amount is taken on time. That is why this issue matters, especially for retirees, widows, widowers, and adult children helping aging parents. The danger is quiet because nothing dramatic happens when the mistake is made. No alarm goes off. No banker stops you at the door. No IRS agent calls you in January and says, "You forgot something." The problem may not show itself until tax filing time, until a letter arrives, until an advisor reviews the accounts, or until a spouse or child is trying to clean up the paperwork after illness or death. And that is what makes this RMD mistake so expensive emotionally. It is not just about the penalty. It is about confusion. It is about not knowing which account was supposed to pay what. It is about families thinking, but dad took a withdrawal, or mom already handled that in April, and then realizing that the withdrawal they remember may have only satisfied 1 year, one account, or one piece of the requirement. So let's walk through the mistake slowly, not with panic, with control. The mistake usually begins with a sentence that sounds perfectly safe. "I'll just wait until April." When you reach the RMD starting age, the first required minimum distribution has a special rule. In many cases, you can take that first RMD by December 31st of the year you reach the required age, or you may be allowed to delay that first one until April 1st of the following year. At first, that sounds helpful. If you turn 73 and you are not ready to withdraw yet, you may think, "I have until next April." And for the first RMD, that may be true in many situations. But here is the chain reaction. If you delay that first RMD until the following April, the next RMD for the next year may still be due by December 31st of that same year. That means you may have 2 RMDs in one calendar year, one by April 1st for the year you turned 73, and another by December 31st for the next year. This is the part people miss. They hear April 1st and their mind relaxes. They think the pressure is gone. But the April deadline may only solve the first RMD. It may not solve the second one. Imagine a retired man named Robert. Robert turns 73 in 2026. He has a traditional IRA. He hears from a friend that he does not need to take his first RMD until April 1st, 2027. So he waits. In March of 2027, he takes the withdrawal. He sees the money enter his checking account. His tax preparer asks him about it. Everything looks handled. Then life moves on. His granddaughter graduates. His property tax bill comes in. He changes his Medicare plan. He has a few doctor appointments. The year fills up with normal life. But Robert does not realize that his 2027 RMD may still be due by December 31st, 2027. So when New Year's Day arrives, he feels calm. He thinks, "I took my RMD back in March." And technically he did, but it may have been the RMD for the previous year. That is the quiet mistake. The action was real. The withdrawal happened. The account statement proves money came out. The problem is that the withdrawal may have satisfied the wrong year. This is where the paperwork becomes more powerful than memory. Your family may remember that you took money out. Your bank statement may show that you took money out. But the RMD rules look at whether the required amount for the correct year was taken by the correct deadline from the correct type of account. That is a very different question. And this is only the first link in the chain. The second link appears when a retiree has more than one retirement account. Many seniors do not have just one IRA sitting neatly in one place. They may have moved jobs. They may have rolled over an old employer plan. They may have opened an IRA decades ago and forgotten about a small balance. A spouse may have inherited an account. A widow may be trying to understand accounts that her husband used to manage. And this is where people can make another dangerous assumption. They think, I took money from one retirement account, so I'm covered. Sometimes that may be partly true. Sometimes it may not. For traditional IRAs, you generally calculate the RMD separately for each IRA, but you may be able to withdraw the total IRA RMD from one or more of those IRAs. That flexibility can help, but that same idea does not automatically apply to every retirement plan. RMDs from certain employer plans, such as 401ks, generally must be handled separately from each plan account. So if someone has an IRA and a 401k, taking extra from the IRA may not fix a missed 401k RMD. This is why the phrase, I took enough overall, can be dangerous. Enough overall from where? Enough for which account? Enough for which year? Enough by which deadline? Those questions matter. Now picture a widow named Elaine. Her husband handled most of the retirement paperwork. After he passes away, Elaine has her own traditional IRA, a small rollover IRA, and an old 401k from a job she left years ago. She receives one RMD letter from one company and follows it. She takes that withdrawal. She feels responsible. She did not ignore anything. But the other account also had an RMD requirement. The mistake was not laziness. It was not carelessness. It was that the paperwork arrived in pieces and no one helped her see the whole map. This happens in real families all the time. One account sends an email, another sends a letter, another posts the number inside an online portal that the retiree rarely checks. Another account is small enough that the retiree forgets it exists. And suddenly the issue is not one big mistake. It is a chain of small assumptions. Assumption 1, April 1st means the year is handled. Assumption 2, one withdrawal covers everything. Assumption 3, the financial company will automatically prevent a mistake. Assumption 4, if there is a problem, someone will warn me before the deadline. That last assumption can be especially risky. Many custodians provide helpful information. Some may calculate an RMD amount. Some may offer automatic withdrawal services. Some may send reminders. But you should not build your protection plan on the hope that every company will catch every issue in time. The IRS does not usually accept "I never noticed the email" as a retirement strategy. And after age 73, the deadline does not care whether December was busy. It does not care that your spouse was sick. It does not care that the account was small. It does not care that you thought the April withdrawal covered the year. That sounds harsh, but understanding it is protective. Because once you know where the trap is, you can build a simple system around it. Before we get to that system, there is another part of the mistake that can surprise people. Taking the RMD late is not the only problem. Taking too little can also create trouble. Let's say your required minimum distribution for the year is $8,000. You withdraw $6,000. You may feel like you did most of it. You may even think, I took a distribution, so I'm fine. But the shortfall is still $2,000. The penalty, if it applies, is generally based on the amount that should have been withdrawn but was not. So a partial RMD can still create an issue. This is why "I took something" is not the same as "I took the correct amount." And the correct amount is not guessed. It is typically calculated based on the prior year-end account balance and an IRS life expectancy factor, with different rules depending on your situation. This does not mean you need to become a tax expert. But it does mean you should not rely on memory, rough estimates, or the amount you happen to need for living expenses. An RMD is not based on what you feel like withdrawing. It is based on a formula. That is why a retiree can take out money all year and still miss the RMD if the total does not meet the required amount. Someone may take $3,000 in February for home repairs, $2,000 in June for insurance, and $1,000 in October for Christmas travel. They may feel like they have been withdrawing all year. But if the RMD was $9,000, they may still be short. This is where many people accidentally make the problem worse. They think spending withdrawals throughout the year automatically equals satisfying the RMD. It might, but only if the total amount and account source are correct. Now let's talk about the tax side, because this is another reason the April delay can backfire. Some retirees delay the first RMD until April because they want to postpone taxable income. That can sound smart. And in some cases, delaying may make sense depending on income, taxes, and personal circumstances. But there is a trade-off. If you delay the first RMD until the following year, then you may have two RMDs counted in that same calendar year, the delayed first RMD and the regular second RMD. That can increase taxable income for that year. And higher taxable income may affect more than just the tax bill. It may affect how much of your Social Security is taxable. It may affect Medicare-related income calculations in future premium years. It may affect estimated tax needs. It may affect how much withholding you should request from distributions. This is why the RMD decision should not be made casually. The question is not simply, can I wait until April? The better question is, what happens if I wait until April? Because the legal deadline and the financial consequence are not always the same thing. A deadline can be allowed and still be costly. That is a sentence every retiree should remember. Allowed does not always mean wise. It may be allowed to delay the first RMD. But if that delay creates two taxable withdrawals in the same calendar year, it may not be the best choice for your situation. This is something to review with a qualified tax or financial professional, especially if you are near Medicare income thresholds, receiving Social Security, selling investments, taking pension income, or helping a spouse plan after death. Now, there is one more dangerous misunderstanding. Some people assume that because Roth IRAs generally do not require lifetime RMDs for the original owner, all Roth-style accounts are simple and irrelevant to RMD planning. The rules around Roth accounts have changed in recent years, especially for designated Roth accounts in workplace plans, and beneficiaries can still face RMD rules after the owner dies. So the safest approach is not to assume. The safest approach is to identify every retirement account, label the type clearly, and ask which accounts require distributions during your life and which may have rules for beneficiaries later. That last part matters for families, because RMD mistakes do not always end with the retiree. Sometimes the problem passes to a spouse or child. If a parent misses an RMD in the year of death, the family may have to figure out what should have been taken, what was actually taken, and what needs to be reported. That can happen while they are grieving, closing accounts, arranging funeral expenses, and trying to understand beneficiary paperwork. This is why RMD organization is not just a tax chore. It is a family protection issue. A clean RMD system can save your spouse or children from guessing later. And guessing is exactly what you want to avoid. The IRS rules may allow certain corrections. A penalty may be reduced if the shortfall is corrected within a certain time. In some cases, penalty relief may be available when the shortfall was due to reasonable error and reasonable steps are being taken to fix it. But that does not mean you should casually rely on forgiveness. Relief is not the plan. Prevention is the plan. Because even if a penalty can be reduced or waived, someone still has to discover the mistake, calculate the shortfall, take corrective action, file the right forms, and explain what happened. That is stress. That is paperwork. That is time. And for an older retiree, a surviving spouse, or an adult child helping from another state, that burden can feel overwhelming. So let's bring the mistake into one clear sentence. After age 73, the RMD mistake that can trigger a penalty is assuming that your first withdrawal, your April deadline, or one account's distribution means all required distributions are done for the year. That is the heart of it. Not taking nothing, not ignoring everything, but taking something and still being wrong. That is why this mistake is so easy to miss. Because it feels like responsibility. It feels like compliance. It feels like you did what you were supposed to do. Until someone asks the exact question, which RMD did that withdrawal satisfy? Now let's turn this into a practical protection plan. The first step is to make an RMD account list. Not a mental list, a written list. Write down every traditional IRA, SEP IRA, simple IRA, 401k, 403b, 457b, inherited IRA, inherited retirement account, and any old employer plan you may still have. Include the company name, account number ending, account type, owner name, beneficiary if known, and whether the account may require its own RMD. This list is not just for you. It is for your spouse, your adult child, your executor, or the person who may need to help if you become ill. The second step is to mark the calendar by year, not just by deadline. This is especially important for the first RMD. If you turn 73 and you are allowed to delay your first RMD until April 1st of the next year, write down exactly which year that April withdrawal is for. Do not simply write RMD due April 1st. Write first RMD for tax year blank, due by April 1st blank. Then write second RMD for tax year blank, due by December 31st blank. That small detail can prevent a major misunderstanding. The third step is to ask each custodian or plan administrator a direct question. Do not ask, "Am I okay?" Ask, "What is the RMD amount for this specific account for this specific year? And does this account's RMD have to be taken from this account?" That question is clearer. It separates IRAs from workplace plans. It separates 1 year from another year. It forces the conversation to be specific. The fourth step is to decide whether automatic RMD withdrawals make sense for you. Many retirees benefit from setting up automatic distributions. But even automatic systems need review. If you open a new account, roll over funds, inherit an account, change custodians, or move money late in the year, the automatic setup may not cover everything. Automation is helpful. It is not a substitute for checking. The fifth step is to review withholding. RMDs are generally taxable income, except in certain situations involving basis or qualified tax-free amounts. You may be able to request federal or state withholding from distributions. The right amount depends on your tax situation. This is where a tax professional can help you avoid being surprised in April. The sixth step is to watch the December 31st deadline. Do not wait until the last week of December. Financial companies get busy. Markets close. Holidays interrupt processing. Forms may need signatures. Bank links may fail. Online access may be difficult. If something goes wrong on December 30th, you may not have enough time to fix it. A safer habit is to review RMD status by October or November. Ask, have all required distributions for this year been completed? Not planned. Completed. The seventh step is to know what to do if you discover a mistake. If you missed an RMD or took too little, do not ignore it. Contact the custodian, tax professional, or financial advisor promptly. Ask how to take the missed amount, how to document the correction, and whether Form 5329 may be required. If the shortfall happened because of reasonable error, ask a qualified tax professional about requesting relief properly. The worst response is silence. The second worst response is guessing. The best response is correction, documentation, and professional guidance. So let's recap the warning. After age 73, the RMD mistake is not always failing to withdraw anything. Sometimes the mistake is believing the first withdrawal solved more than it actually solved. The April deadline may cover the first RMD, but it may also create a year where a second RMD is due by December 31st. One IRA withdrawal may not satisfy a 401k requirement. One account notice may not cover every account. One partial distribution may not be enough. And one busy December can turn a fixable task into a penalty problem. This is not about fear. It is about control. You do not need to memorize every IRS rule, but you do need a system that answers 4 questions every year. Which accounts do I have? Which ones require an RMD? How much must be withdrawn? And has the correct amount been taken by the correct deadline? If you can answer those 4 questions clearly, you are far ahead of many retirees who simply hope the paperwork is handled. And if you are helping a parent, this is one of the kindest things you can do. Do not wait until they are overwhelmed. Do not wait until December. Do not wait until a spouse is gone and the paperwork is scattered. Sit down calmly. Make the list. Check the accounts. Ask the questions. And before changing anything, review it with a qualified tax, legal, or financial professional who understands your situation. Because the goal is not to take money out blindly. The goal is to avoid unnecessary penalties, tax surprises, and family confusion. If you want a simple checklist for reviewing retirement accounts after age 73, comment RMD below. And share this with someone in your family who has an IRA, 401k, or old retirement account from a previous job. A 5-minute conversation today may save them from a very expensive surprise later.